All right, welcome everybody. Joined as frequently, right, with Brenna Harper to talk about the real estate market. What's happening in our Denver metro area for the real estate numbers? What are the actives? What are the solds? What is the market doing so that we can interpret it and make the best decisions? So, Brenna, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hello, everyone. My name is Brenna Harper. For those of you that don't know me, I work with Land Title Guarantee Company, and we put out a monthly Greater Metro report, Metro Denver report on statistics of what's kind of happening in the market, like Matt was talking about. So we're going to kind of go through that for you all, what it means to you as a buyer, as a seller, as a property owner, what that kind of looks like. So typically I will just go through kind of what we call our highlight reel or our high level, and then we'll dig into some deeper things. So I know that you can put stuff in the comments if you have direct questions, or you can always reach out to Matt if you have specific things that you want to know about. But hopefully you find this valuable as you are navigating the real estate market or just thinking about navigating the real estate market.
Yeah, a big overview of the market. I know one of the things we'll touch on here in a bit is real estate is still a very local business, so it matters to interpret the exact hyperlocal data.
Yes, absolutely.
So as we are here for Thanksgiving week, Brenna, share something you're thankful for.
I am thankful for my family. Both Matt and I have a lot of family in Colorado. So even though things look a little bit different this year, I am very grateful to have our families close.
Yeah, it's good to be able to spend some time with family, to have people close. We don't have to jump on an airplane to go visit.
Yes.
Yeah, very good. Well, I'm always thankful for you. Obviously that's family, and I appreciate your time doing this. Frequently getting people that are reaching out saying they appreciate the information. Wouldn't be able to do this without you and Land Title. So thank you for being that resource for us.
You're welcome.
So let's roll right into what the numbers look like. I'm going to share your screen here real quick, and here we go.
Perfect. Okay.
Talk about what happened for October.
Yeah, so just as a reminder, if this is your first time tuning in, these are for October's numbers, so we won't have November's numbers until December. So this is just a highlight of what happened in October. I also like to talk about, especially with it being 2020, all of the numbers here on the screen are year over year, but I'm also going to tie in month over month. So year over year would be this time last year versus this year, and then month over month would be September versus October. So we're in kind of uncharted territory here in 2020 with some of the trends that we normally see. So I think it's important to talk about the month over month so we can see in relation to what's been happening this year. Are we up? Are we down? Are we flat? What is that looking like? So the first thing that we want to talk about is pending or under contract transactions. And we're up 20.2% year over year. So obviously that's a massive number. But when we look at month over month, we're actually down 4.3. So that's kind of a first indicator that we might be slowing down, and not slowing down, markets crashing, bottoms falling out, just maybe like a deep breath, or maybe even a shallow breath, just because we have been going so fast. But there is some deceleration there as far as that goes. Days in MLS, or days in the multiple listing service where agents put the listings, we are unseasonably low at 23 and a half days, which is 10 days shorter than this time. And we're down month over month we're up. So again, just that like slight hiccup, slower, about half of a day. So just another indicator, again, we're nowhere close to a buyer's market, still extreme seller's market, but these are just some indications that we're seeing finally some of that seasonal slowing that we typically see back in September. We're seeing it kind of start to slow down just a little bit. So sold units are higher, the highest that we've seen in several years, up 24% year over year, but we are down just a tick, about 1.8% month over month. So in other words, the new houses are coming to the market. They're just going extremely quickly. And I'll show this later, but our active inventory is below 4,000. And I give this stat a lot, but the National Association of Realtors says that a balanced market would be 30,000 homes, or about 6 months of inventory. For Denver, we think it's closer to around 3 to 4 months. So not quite that 30,000, but we are under a month of inventory. So very, very, very fast market, very competitive market, and definitely a seller's market. But we'll definitely talk about some opportunities. I don't want buyers to think, oh man, there's no way that I can buy. Interest rates are still definitely in your corner, being historically low. So there are ways to get homes bought and to still make it a great investment. So don't let the low inventory scare you. It's just something to be aware of when you're strategizing buying a new home or selling your home.
Yeah, we feel as an agent in the market, feel like the market's taken that breath, and it's maybe a little bit of a seasonal piece, right? It's not for sure, hey, things are shifting and all of a sudden going to slow down. This happens pretty frequently. We see some upticks and some downticks in the market now as these months or these numbers are from October. We see October, things start to slow down a little bit, which normally they slow down a little bit earlier, COVID being a little different year.
Yep. So typically we see the slowdown start closer to September, but we really see a drop after daylight savings. No one likes to be, or not no one, most people don't like to be outside when it's cold and it's dark, me especially. So when it's getting dark at 4:30, you're less inclined to go see that home at 8 p.m. or 9 p.m. like you can do in the summertime. So that kind of ends the peak of our buying season for a lot of people. They figure, oh, okay, I've been looking at homes since maybe April, May. They're a little bit burnt out perhaps. And then just with the weather and seasonal changes, we see a lot of people kind of say, well, unless it's urgent, maybe we'll just wait until next year. So if you are in a position where you have to buy, that can be a great opportunity because there's less competition in the market. And then also I want Matt to talk about, with Thanksgiving coming up, what some of those opportunities or potential things to consider on both sides, what that looks like for us.
Yeah, thankfully Land Title does the research, so I have the data to be able to go back and say, what were the numbers for some of these holidays? Whether that's Thanksgiving, it's Christmas, it's New Year's, it's Memorial Day, it's Mother's Day, it's Independence Day, whatever that is, and see what was the showing versus the week before or the week after. How does it change? Does it change? So one of the things that we see is those holiday weekends that are extended in Colorado. Typically, those are weekends where buyers decide to take a step back, right? They don't want to be in the hustle and bustle. If it's nice in the summertime, they get out in the mountains, they get out of town. Over Thanksgiving, they're staying home. They're prepping to, have their Thanksgiving event, typically this year being different with the COVID restrictions. So as a seller, expect that your home might not have as many showings over that weekend, which might be okay with you if you're just planning on relaxing and enjoying your Thanksgiving. As a buyer, over that time, if you have the ability and the freedom to go look, there's not going to be much competition for you given the amount of homes that you have and what you might experience competition-wise either the week before or the week after. So, back to the seller, if you're considering putting your house on the weekend for this week, maybe it's beneficial to hit pause and wait a week, right, till the buyers get back into the market. So just different strategies based on what the numbers tell us.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting this year, obviously, with a lot of people choosing to keep their Thanksgivings very small or even do them virtually. They might be looking for an opportunity to get out of their house and go look at homes where they would typically be with their family. So, again, we're kind of in uncharted territory as far as what this year will look like. But I would imagine still that we'll see some kind of decline in that showing activity, regardless of the current situation.
But I also want to add this point in. Right now, at this very point in time, we can do in-person showings with the COVID restrictions and the raising of the level. We can do them right now. At any moment, that may change, that may alter. We don't know what's coming around the bend. So right now, today, we can do them. There's protocols in place to be able to do them safely, and as long as people are following the expectations and the rules, right? With the Colorado Real Estate Commission, the CDC, kind of following those guidelines, we can still do in-person showings. Again, asterisks, we know that information right now at this moment to be accurate, unless somehow a news report came out or an email came out that has changed since we started this about 10 minutes ago.
Haven't gotten any notifications on my phone. So this next bullet point kind of speaks to what we've mentioned before as far as real estate is first and foremost local. So Jefferson County and also Broomfield County are in the biggest struggle with inventory, showing about 0.58 of a month. So like 2 weeks of inventory. So where, it's a little bit higher than that for Denver Metro on the whole, Jefferson and Broomfield are the most competitive right now in most, as a general statement, across all price points. But something you really want to look at, I was talking to an agent this week, and we've been telling people inventory is down, things are so competitive, you can price very aggressively, and he had his condo listed in Denver, and it was priced very aggressively, and he's like, man, it's sitting, and I really want top dollar for it, and I was like, well, let's just do a local insights report. So we pulled by the zip code, and we can also pull attached families, so like townhomes and condos, and detached would be like your single family homes. And those are two very different markets. So we pulled attached for this specific zip code, and actually active inventory was up considerably month over month. And there were some other indicators that was a little bit softer of a market. And he was really shocked, and honestly, so was I by that, that there was just this little pocket where we weren't seeing those multiple offers, and there was a little bit of influx in inventory. So people had maybe 4 homes to look at instead of 1 or half, So really taking a look and diving into exactly where you're looking to either sell or buy is incredibly important to make sure that you know what you have going in and how to do that strategy.
Yeah, without a doubt. I was talking to an agent friend of mine, and as we were analyzing this property that she had active, we found that within a quarter mile of this condo, now this is a condo, this is a high-rise building, and it's in downtown, there were, I think, over 30 active, like 2-bedroom, 2-bath condos within the same realm, right? So a lot of competition. That sure changes your strategy versus if you have one of 2 or one of 1 of something that everybody wants, you can be more aggressive. If you have something that readily can be bought anywhere, your price is going to really drive that. You need to be aggressive in the price, or it may sit on the market and just sit on the market. Days and days and days going by without much inventory or without many showings or much action.
Yeah. Now, you bring up an interesting point. We have definitely seen a flight to the suburbs as COVID has passed month over month. People just want more space. They realize, some of the perks of living downtown, walkability, restaurants, everything like that have kind of been taken away from them. And we've really seen people move out. So who knows how long that will last, if people will move back in. Obviously, downtown Denver is still incredibly desirable, and there's some really cool places, but I think that is part of the reason we're seeing a little uptick in some of that inventory, especially in our attached, like that condo market in Denver, because people just want more space. 700 square feet when you're quarantined is not enough for most people. And, you know, they want some grass.
Yeah, get some grass to get out and be outside for a moment, right? We
Yeah.
can't go to concerts, we can't do the things outside, so get outside and enjoy mowing the grass when the summer's nice. But
Yep, absolutely. So this is another thing that we like to look at every month. This is our showing data from showing time. The purplish blue line is 2019 and the orange line is 2020. So you'll see there in March and April, the COVID crater, as we've kind of named it here. And then you can see that it gets back on track very quickly, and it's pretty consistent as far as showing data as what we have seen in the past. But what you will notice is from October 2nd to November 2nd, when we pulled this, there is a drop in showings. It's seasonal. It's very close to 2019, but it is dropping. And that's one of those leading indicators of the speed of the market that reflects in some of the other numbers that we've talked about too. Again, it's not a massive drop. It's not like you see back in March where everything just kind of stopped, but it is a little bit of a slowing, a downslope. So just something to consider and to watch.
well, and the COVID crater, right? That was initially as things really got intense here, in the U.S. around the coronavirus. But the state actually shut down showings at one point. So the reason why there was a big drop, we weren't allowed to do showings unless you were actually under contract on a property. So
Right.
the good news is still homes were going under contract every day. It just looked a little different.
Yes, absolutely. So we'll see what happens. I would imagine that this number is going to continue to go down. Again, nothing to be afraid of. That's what we would expect to see this time of year. For the most part, this time of year, like I said, unless buyers have a big life event and they have to buy, they're going to wait until the weather's nicer, there's more sunshine. And kind of get through the holidays, enjoy that, and not be in that hustle. So we'll see. I would anticipate that it will still kind of drop. But again, who knows? It's 2020. Weirder things have happened.
Yeah, it's all fair game, right? Yeah, I would anticipate we'll see it continue to drop down till we get into around the first of the year.
Yep. And something with that, every year in previous years, we've seen that lull kind of get shorter and shorter. Before it was summer selling season and now it's spring selling season. And we even saw, it was 2 weeks into January and it felt like just someone ignited the real estate market. So we'll see what it looks like this year, but it just keeps getting earlier and earlier that people are getting out of that holiday fog and back into buying and selling homes. So that'll be something to look forward to. And obviously, we'll keep a look at the numbers. As we move on, this is a market snapshot. So this is detached and attached together. Active is the green line, pending or under contract is the blue, and red is the sold. So these are the numbers that we talked about on the previous slides. But as you can see for all three of these metrics that they are going down. Obviously sold is still not as dramatic, but we anticipate that it'll follow the pendings. And active took a pretty decent dive, which is concerning because we don't have any inventory to start with. So we're under 4,000. We're at 39,45 for combined total active units, which is incredibly low. So there's not a lot out there right now.
Yeah, and as you shared earlier, given the pace of the market that we have, with as many buyers are active in the market, we would need to have somewhere around 30,000 active homes to get that back to a balanced market. We have under 4,000. That's a dramatic shortage.
For Colorado, I would say probably closer to 20, as 6 months is a little bit overzealous for our Denver, Colorado market. So probably closer to that 3 or 4, but still 3,000 homes versus 20,000. That's a massive gap.
A huge gap.
Anything else you want to chat about on this screen, Matt?
It's interesting as we've watched this all year, consistently over the last several years, you've seen the active inventory or the green line above or really close to the others. To see it so dramatically below both under contract and sold, it just continues to compound the concern or the issue, which is a shortage of homes, a shortage of inventory. Again, overall market, it's still done very, very hyper local level.
Yep, absolutely. Okay. And this is our active listings. As you can see, just historically, we have 2018, 2019, and then 2020. So more than half of, or just about half of what we've seen in these previous years. So again, there is that cycle of up and down, and we are in that time of year that it would be more down. It's just much lower than it has been.
What I would say, there's, sometimes what happens in this market when inventory levels are really low, sellers will get a little, we'll say, lax on how they present their home. Marketing and the presentation still really matter, and how you choose to market the home, as well as how you choose to price the home, are still very important, because people, as much as we like to say that we are very logical and believe that we're very logical, we're still emotional beings. So if we walk into a home and it feels cluttered, it feels dirty, the space doesn't make sense, we're a lot less interested in that property. If we are walking in and it feels warm and it feels inviting and it feels like home, we're more likely to pay for that home. Now, they could be in the same neighborhood, they could be same square footage, they could be very similar condition of the actual home of what stays, right? So it's still important, no matter what the market's doing, to put that best foot forward, because buyers are still going to judge it based on what else they've seen.
Absolutely. And keep in mind, we're just getting more and more educated and used to buying homes online, or buying online in general. So I think buyers are a little bit more savvy as to what to look for, because, when I'm buying a rug, I know exactly what to look for, and not just the picture. And we're doing all of those kind of things online, but they also have a lot more that they have to put into going to see the showing. It's not as quick as like, hey, Matt, I want to go see the showing. Let's go right now. It's a process. They have to get it set up. It can't be overlapping. You have to wear gloves and a mask and all the things. And so if your house doesn't present well, maybe they don't feel like it's worth going to look at. It really does make a difference, even though inventory is so low and it would be so easy just to take those photos on your iPhone and not make the bed. It makes a difference. It really does. Even if you are going to sell your home, that perception, good or bad, will determine the cost or how much you are getting. So if you want that top dollar, presentation is key still.
Yeah, without a doubt. I used to sell motorcycles for a living, and I worked for a general manager. He said frequently, it's only a fool who's going to try to sell a dirty motorcycle. And that was his way of telling us, hey, go clean some motorcycles, hit that polish, and make sure it looks good.
Yep, absolutely. We talked about month supply of inventory. This is the graph for that. Again, detached and attached. So we are continuing to go down. So overall, we're at 0.8% of a month for overall inventory. But if you look in this bottom left-hand corner, it breaks it down into county. So you can see that Broomfield and Jefferson, like we talked about, are the most depleted. Denver actually has over a month, which is a lot to do with that attached inventory that we talked about. In Arapahoe County, surprisingly, Elbert is a little bit different just because it's so small and there's less inventory there. So those numbers bounce around a lot easier. But Arapahoe County being up and Denver being up, those are not up, but higher than the rest of the overall market, just shows you how imperative it is and how different even just bordering counties are from each other when you're looking at inventory.
Yeah, and sometimes it's that dividing line of being east of I-25 or west of I-25. And sometimes your dollar goes a little bit further if you're willing to look a little outside of maybe an ideal location as to where you would want to be. And what you'll find is that Colorado overall is a pretty amazing place to be, whether you're east of I-25 or west of I-25.
Yeah, and unfortunately, people from outside of our state are realizing that too, especially with more people being able to telecommute into work. We're seeing a lot of coastal cities moving this way. We're also seeing a little bit of movement out just with affordability issues, but more in than out still. So Denver is still an incredibly desirable place, as we all know. That's why we live here. To live, but we are seeing a lot of California, Oregon, New York, those kind of places that they want to get out of the city and they're coming to Colorado.
Colorado is really a great place to be. And don't worry, if you live east of I-25, you can still see the mountains,
Yeah.
depending on how far east you go.
Okay, so this is the days in MLS, or the multiple listing service. We look at this every month, and this just shows us a really good indicator of speed of market. So if we look at this time last year, we were at 33 and a half days, and now we're at 23 and a half days. So that's a significant drop. And we've been pretty low and pretty consistently low for kind of all of our COVID months. Obviously, April was the lowest. And then we just blipped up a tiny bit in October. So I would imagine maybe a little blip up again in November, like we talked about. But you can look again, like we talked about down here in the left-hand corner. There is some variance depending on what county you're in. So, don't want to beat a dead horse on this, but take these numbers from, that 30,000 foot view, but then depending on where you're looking to buy or sell, really dive into those numbers to make sure that you're getting the most accurate numbers for where you are.
Yeah, without a doubt. We can always start at that 30,000 foot view. And then as we get down into the granular or into the hyperlocal to determine what is it doing in my neighborhood, specifically my neighborhood, what's happening. And that's a big difference sometimes.
Absolutely. Another thing to consider is active by price points and sold by price points. So you can kind of see where the compression is or where there's the most homes. So probably not very surprising to most people is that there's virtually no inventory below 200,000. So there's 178 homes. But I mean, all of it's low, right? But that 500,000 price point, 500 to 599 and 200 to 299 are really low as well. And then you have a little bit more in those neighboring areas. So what we're seeing that's definitely been a challenge for some people is because of all of the multiple offers and going several $1,000s above asking, you have people looking down in price point so they can bid up. So if you're average, if you're approved for $500,000, you can't look at a $500,000 home. You're now having to look at 450 or 475. Well, that's putting more people into that price point than there normally is, making it more competitive. So we're seeing that in a couple different price points where there's just people coming in because they have to make sure that they can be approved for what they're actually going to pay for the house, not for what it's listed for. So that's been a little bit interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a constant change in the pace and where this game is being played, right? It's breaking down into the nuances of, right, the neighborhood, the city level, the county level, price point level, attached, detached, et cetera. There's so many moving components that this really, again, phenomenal tool to help us analyze and determine what's happening at the local level so that we can advise our clients.
Well, and as a buyer, just to set yourself up for success, because if you're approved, like again, for that 500,000 and all you're looking at is $500,000 homes, you're going to get upset in a hurry because you're looking at things that more times than not, you won't be able to have. So you want to be looking at homes and falling in love with homes that you can actually get. It's extremely frustrating to look at them and be like, oh, well, I didn't know it was going to go for 575. We can't afford that. So just setting that expectation for yourself and, with your agent, so you don't get frustrated and just give up or just hate the process.
Well, and if you're too focused on the homes that are at, say 500, and that's where you're approved at, and you're not willing to look at the homes at 450, the way that this market's going, pretty soon the homes that you've been snubbing your nose at 450 are going to be at 500.
Yes.
That's where the listing price is going to be. That's where it's going to start. And those are homes maybe you wouldn't have even considered early on in the process. Now, those are your options.
Yep. And people say, I had a server this week say, well, maybe I'll be able to buy a home in 10 years. And I'm like, oh, but think about the appreciation. Like, Denver's still appreciating over the average appreciation rate. So yeah, it is expensive, expensive comparatively to other parts of the country. But what if interest rates go up too? Then the appreciation's gone up and interest rates go up and your dollar goes a lot, doesn't go as far. So there's a lot of things to consider, but there's so many different options that I think a lot more people can buy than think initially, especially when we talk about the average price point being over 600,000. That's really scary. That's a lot of money. But if you dive in to what the numbers actually say in the different counties, there's a lot of great homes under that price point. That's just the average for all of Denver Metro. So don't let that scare you away, but just know that it means we have a healthy market and that we're continuing to appreciate. So real estate is still a good investment.
Yeah, overall. And sometimes it's just getting your foot in the door. This might not be the dream home or the dream location or any of that. Sometimes it's the foot in the door and ride that appreciation into the bigger home, the nicer home, the better location, whatever that might mean to you. Sometimes it's a shorter term sacrifice to get where you want to be by starting at a home that's, maybe less than you thought you wanted.
Absolutely. And even if you are incredibly good at saving, it would be very, very difficult to save more than your house would appreciate for. So utilize that as a tool. I know when I bought my townhouse, the market was incredible and it was double-digit appreciation. So obviously it was best case scenario, not as a buyer, but when I went to sell it. And in just a couple of years, in less than 5 years, I had $100,000 of equity in my home, and I had done a few updates, but there's no way that I could have saved that amount of money if I just put money in my bank account, in my savings account. So I really was able to utilize my townhome as a tool to be able to buy our next home. So that's just something to consider for sure.
Yeah, the first home that I bought, I sold it for a pretty good profit, still kicking myself because it's worth today probably $200,000 more than I paid for it. And this was 12 years ago that I purchased the home, right? So I don't know about everybody else watching the video. It would take me a long time to try to save $200,000 because if I've got money in my bank account, I'm spending it. I'm just a consumer. That's what I do. So to allow that appreciation to accrue over 12 years, $200,000 in equity, that makes a big down payment on the next house, or pulling money out in equity to go buy investment properties or put it into a 401k or whatever you might do.
Yep, absolutely. Well, what else, Matt? What else can we go over?
This is really hit the highlights again. So this is always covering the very prudent details that I think we want to be staying in touch with, because again, it gives an overview of the story. We want to be able to dive down in the granular level as to what's going on in our neighborhood when it comes time to make that transaction.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, as we wrap up, Brenna, any parting words as we, close this one out and are headed into the holiday?
I think nope. I don't. I think the only thing I will say is I know it can be extremely, extremely frustrating on the buy side if you've been grinding and grinding and grinding and missing out on those offers. So if you're in that spot, it might be the perfect weekend for you to take a look at that. So I know that it's challenging. Matt's talked about it before, that it's a very emotional transaction. It's one of the biggest financial decisions you make in your life. But if it's something that you really want and or need, maybe take that opportunity this weekend of less showings, less competition, and you might just come out with a great home that you didn't think that you could compete for just a couple weekends ago.
Yeah, if you can hang on and hang into this market for a little bit, I would anticipate as we get into February of next year that we'll start to see this pace really pick up again. Now, again, no crystal ball, no way to know. That's just my anticipation based on what's happened in the market over the last couple of years, including this year. Uh, so if we're in a little bit of a lull, you might have an opportunity to not really overpay for a property.
Absolutely.
So awesome. Well, again, Brenna, thank you so much. And thank you to Land Title for doing the research, putting this data together so that I can sound like an expert when I'm talking to my clients.
Absolutely. Happy to help. Happy to be here.
Excellent. All right, y'all. Well, again, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for watching. Specific video requests, keep sending those in. Drop comments in. Let us know what you want to hear and who you want us to interview. So until next time, y'all take care.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.